Good Thursday afternoon. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille show. We're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network, a network of 17 Facebook pages, 17 Twitter accounts, the third largest Instagram community in Central Virginia, an e-newsletter that goes out to over 135,000 email inboxes every morning, our flagship website on ilovecville.com, and in iTunes and Spotify and Apple Podcast platforms. Guys, we reach over 250,000 people a year through the I Love CVille network, and we love doing it. What we like to do is to showcase the stories that matter to you in the community, stories that are either being ignored or not covered correctly. We have the bandwidth doing long-form content where we can spend a lot of time getting into the nitty-gritty and analyzing things from every detail. A lot of headlines on today's show, guys. We're going to cover the statues coming down in Richmond. We have video footage of the Stonewall Jackson statue hanging in the air from a crane as people watch the statue being picked up by city workers. This is the exact experience we will have in Charlottesville, Virginia later this summer. That story coming up for you. We'll talk about city facilities like swimming pools, guys, like splash parks, staying in phase 2. Dr. Richardson has said, he's the city manager, that city facilities will stay in phase 2. However, you have private facilities like ACAC heading to phase 3, opening up for larger people. I try to highlight and spotlight what I see as a growing wealth gap divide in the community. This here a microcosm. The affordable or otherwise free city facilities are staying behind with how they're opening for the public, where the ACACs, the Boar's Heads, the Keswicks, the Farmingtons, the Spring Creeks, the Glenmores of the world, where you have to pay ducats to be a part of these facilities, they're going to phase 3 and expanding and welcoming people to their grounds, their pools, their fitness centers. It's frustrating. It's frustrating, especially in the dog days of the Charlottesville Blue Ridge summer. We'll talk, ladies and gentlemen, about Charlottesville offering relief grants to business owners across the Commonwealth, across Charlottesville. The City Council and City Hall now has $750,000 they have said that they're going to offer small business owners. Why this is coming out in July instead of March, I don't know. Regardless, I'll give kudos and props to the city for this $750K grant that's going to businesses across Charlottesville. That story coming up. We're saving the fireworks. We're going to give you an update on where we stand with the fireworks. Private citizens across Charlottesville have rallied together to save a holiday that we need oh so much. And ladies and gentlemen, how about Barbara Lundgren singing our national anthem on this program? That's coming up. And Rob Masri, an entrepreneur, an attorney, an ambassador, and a steward of Charlottesville, is our guest. I love some Rob Masri on this show. Judah Wickhauer is our director. We have 112 clients on our roster. We're an advertising agency with a satellite office in New Providence, New Jersey, and clients from Jersey to Asheville. But our heart is in Charlottesville with you guys. Two of our favorite clients, Interstate Pest and Service Companies, and the good Dr. Scott Wagner, chiropractic and sports medicine. Interstate's a home's best friend. Dr. Wagner, a body's best friend. Chiropractic care, sports medicine, and physical therapy for Dr. Wagner. And Interstate, guys, they have so many services to get your home up to speed. 4 generations of family running that company. Judah Wickhauer, why don't we get your face on screen? Let's go to the Judah Wickhauer camera, and let's give some props to a director of epic proportions. Wave to the camera, wave to the viewers, and say hello, my friend.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great week, and looking forward to the 4th of July.
Amen, brother. Let's do it. Headlines first. Let's get the video ready to go. Stonewall Jackson statue clinging in the air from a crane. Richmond removes statue of Confederate General Stonewall Jackson from Monument Avenue. Why am I showing this to you? Because, boys and girls, this is exactly what we will go through in Charlottesville, Virginia. You can't say, I want the statues to stay. They are coming down. Richmond has given the individual municipalities the right, the autonomy, the decision-making power to take them down. Charlottesville's going to do it. So our minds are past the stay or go in our minds, in our brains, in our efforts should now be focused on the most harmonious way possible to remove these statues from our community. We've seen weeks of despair, weeks of fighting, weeks of destruction in Richmond, to the point that the governor is calling it almost a war zone, an emergency zone where he can get the Virginia National Guard in the mix. We've seen three police chiefs in Richmond in 2020 alone because of what's happening in this city. The capital of the resistance, the capital of the Confederacy, is getting hit hard. And as someone who loves Charlottesville, who bleeds Charlottesville, who's made his business over the last 12 years of singing the praises of CVille, I want this process to go as harmoniously and as seamlessly as possible. Judah, let's get that video ready to go. Here you will see the Stonewall Jackson statue in Richmond, Virginia, being removed from Monument Avenue. 3, 2, 1. Let's learn from Richmond, Virginia. Let's watch what the folks have done 55, 60 miles down the road, and let's take the positives and let's delete the negatives. Folks, this is an opportunity for leadership in our city. This is an opportunity for council in our city. This is an opportunity for Dr. Richardson in our city. This is an opportunity for Central Virginia in totality to get galvanized and to come together. Okay? All I ask of our city leadership is to give us a clear-cut plan. These are the steps we're going to take. We're letting you know this in advance. And why we want to let you know this in advance? So you can mentally, physically prepare for what's coming down the road. I'm past the point of imploring and demanding city leadership to give us this plan. I'm now at the point of begging. We need to understand what's going to happen here. Please give us an idea, please, so we can mentally and physically prepare. Now let's go to the next storyline. This one I want to spend a little bit of time on. Okay, Charlottesville city facilities. Get the headline on screen, Judah. Charlottesville city facilities to remain in phase 2 restrictions as areas open up. These are splash parks. These are city pools, okay? And here's where I'm going with this, okay? When the splash parks, the outdoor swimming pools, and the indoor recreation centers and the indoor pools stay closed in the city of Charlottesville, this is what's happening. These are the infrastructures and public offerings that every city has. In the summer, you need stuff to do, especially in the heat. The pools, the splash parks, and the indoor facilities that are remaining closed are the option. At the same time that these public facilities are remaining closed, private facilities like ACAC, private facilities like Boar's-Head, like Farmington, like Glenmore, like Keswick, like Spring Creek, just to name a few, are opening and welcoming their paying members in numbers that we have not seen since COVID-19 assaulted this country. And I bring this up for the following reason. I am a huge, huge advocate of closing and narrowing the wealth gap in this community and this country. I'm a huge proponent of narrowing this wealth gap because when we do, we will see social and civil unrest also follow suit. Of course we have civil unrest. We've had policemen murder black men in Minneapolis on camera, and we have a wealth gap that's larger than it's ever been. When we have city management say these pools and these splash parks and these indoor facilities are not going to open when all the private facilities are, the only folks that are getting hurt by this are the folks that are already being impacted from a wealth gap and a social justice standpoint. It's brutal. It is brutal. Why can I, and why can my wife, and why can my son swim in an ACAC pool or a Glenmore pool when some of our friends are saying we can't go to a splash park in the city so our kids can cool off in a 100-degree hot day? It's not right. My heart, it's not right. I want to highlight that. This came late yesterday. The governor said we're going to phase 3. Dr. Richardson, in very DL fashion, didn't even really announce this outside of an email. Now, how about some positivity? How about the relief grants? How about $750,000 in relief? Frankly, I think it's a little too late. It's in July and this is coming. But regardless, I'm going to see the positivity in this. $750,000 Charlottesville is offering to help local businesses during the pandemic. $750K. That's not going to go far, so they've chopped it up in grants of $5,000 and $10,000. $5,000 for businesses with less than 10 full-time employees. $10K for businesses with more than 10 but fewer than 50. Funds may be used for operating expenses or adaptive resiliency efforts. Online applications start Monday, June 13th at 9 a.m. Thank you, Charlottesville City, for finally doing something. $750,000 is better than $0. But online applications starting on Monday, July 13th, you missed the boat. The businesses that were in shambles that needed the help were asking for it in March, early and mid-April. The businesses that are going to apply for these grants on July 13th are the ones that have started to figure out COVID, that have started to get their business back in order, and the ones that undoubtedly are going to survive. So when these grants open on July 13th, I expect many to apply. Unfortunately, the ones that do are the ones that were already going to survive this. The ones that are not surviving this, they've already closed shop. They folded the tent, they've gone home, and they're considering other options. So while I applaud the city for $750,000 in grants, I ask the city, why didn't you do this in March? Because in business, timing is everything. The grants are going to go to folks that have already figured out this situation, have a burn rate in place. The grant should have come out in March and April, not in July. Come on now. All right, let's go to a macro headline, Judah, and let's go to the story from CNN. The reason I'm showing this is because it causes concern for me. Put the CNN headline on. So yesterday I told you about IHOP in Charlottesville closing its doors. Yesterday I told you about Wegmans in the Wegmans pub in Charlottesville at 5th Street Station closing its doors. When brands like IHOP and the pub at Wegmans are closing their restaurants, that worries me. Now I do a lot of investing. I follow this closely. There is a franchisee that owns over 1,200 Pizza Huts and almost 400 Wendy's restaurants in the United States. This franchisee that has over 1,600 units has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Guys, Wendy's has a drive-through. This company had 1,600 restaurant units. They had economies of scale. They understood how to scale and run businesses. They had advantages like drive-thrus. They had advantages like established brands like Pizza Hut and Wendy's, and still, with 1,600 units, they're closing their doors and filing for bankruptcy. It's unfortunate, but the sector that's going to rebound, that's going to take the longest to rebound here is restaurants. No doubt about it. We're seeing the housing sector rebound. We see that Q3 2020 in Charlottesville and Central Virginia, July, August, and September, these 3 months are shaping to be a gangbusters quarter for real estate across Charlottesville and Central Virginia. The NASDAQ just hit an all-time high. The NASDAQ just hit an all-time high. Unemployment is dropping. Unemployment is dropping to the lowest levels since the pandemic assaulted America. We're creating new jobs. New jobs are being created now. And I was having this conversation with some friends through our text chain. We have a tale of two lives, a tale of two stories here. We have the divide on Wall Street increasing. We undoubtedly have a real estate market that's rebounding. We have new construction permits that are increasing. We have $750,000 in grants that are coming out in July for the city. Yet we still have many of our hospitality and our food and beverage citizens, neighbors, and friends out of work. When the $600 a week program expires at the end of this month, that's when we need to sit back and analyze the true landscape of Charlottesville, Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, and America. Because right now, a lot of folks are being subsidized by the federal government to the tune of $6 a week. Let's see what happens at the end of July. You see glimmers of hope in housing recovering, new construction spiking, the NASDAQ hitting an all-time high. You see glimmers of hope, and the phone is ringing across businesses across America and certainly across Charlottesville. But you still have tremendous concerns. And we will until F&B and hospitality and wedding and events gets back up to speed, because so many people in our community are tied to those sectors. We still got to pray. We still got to work hard. We still got to support one another. We still got to be safe. We still got to keep our money in our community. We may be seeing some glimmers, but we're not there yet. I think another glimmer undoubtedly we're going to see is on Saturday from Wendell Woods Mountain in the 4th of July. From 9:15 to 9:45, Charlottesville and Central Virginia will see a fireworks show of epic proportions, a fireworks show that has never been seen of this caliber ever before. We'll launch the fireworks from Wendell Woods Mountain. You'll have, if the sky is clear, 30 to 40, 50-mile radius of people being able to see these fireworks. From 9:15 to 9:45, you're going to put your hand on your heart. You'll have 30 minutes of escape. Get the GoFundMe on screen and get ready to go to Barbara Lundgren singing the national anthem before we have Rob Masri, the fabulous attorney. Tell me when the GoFundMe's on screen. $33,334 of a $35,000 goal. We're less than $1,700 away. Please donate. The excess goes to the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, a nonprofit that needs our support more than ever. Citizens like Barbara Lundgren, citizens like Bob Shada and Ray Cadell, citizens like Joe Thomas, businesses like I Love CVille and NBC 29, private donors like Kelly Jackson, businesses like Crutchfield, like State Farm, and the list goes on and on and on and on, have rallied their money together to save fireworks in our community. Because who doesn't want a 30-minute escape where you can put your hand on your heart and say, I am proud to be an American. And you know what I was really proud? this morning on the Virginia Wedding and Event Showcase. The show airs Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille network, and it stars the fairy godmother herself, Barbara Lundgren. Surprise to me, surprise to Judah, Barbara says, I want to sing. And I want to sing for America. You have that ready to go, Judah?
Yep.
Let's hear Barbara sing before we get to the very talented Esquire, Rob Masri. Judah, let's play that in 3, 2, 1. Okay, Barbara Lundgren is going to sing. Everybody tag on any of the 12 Facebook pages that you're watching the show on. If you're watching the show on any of these 12 Facebook pages, tag your friends right now and say the fairy godmother,
Please,
Barbara Lundgren, is about to sing.
It's okay. It's all right.
Barbara Lundgren is about to sing. Everybody tag your friends right now. I'm going to go studio cam and raise and wave the American flag right here. Judah. Make some moves, Judah. Make some moves, Judah. He's got, we didn't tell him this, so he's going to frame you here.
Oh, dear.
This is
Okay.
amazing. This is live programming, not
Don't
planned
get that
whatsoever.
excited, okay?
I'm taking a jacket. I'm so excited right now. Judah, you ready to rock and roll, baby?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
You got to hold the flag.
Okay. I'm going to wave the flag.
Wave the
Roll my
flag.
sleeves up and wave the flag. Barbara, I love you. You're fun. You're a lot of fun. J-Dubs, let's do it, baby. Give us the 3, 2, 1 when Barbara can sing.
I'm ready with one cam on her.
Okay. Show us yours. I'm waving the flag.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Barbara Lundgren has a beautiful voice, a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful voice. And we may even play this at the end of the show. First, we got to go to an incredibly talented Esquire, a man who has entrepreneurship in his blood, a man who's a steward of this community, a man who may be in the best physical fitness of his life right now, and Rob. And I'll tell you what, we have Keith Cooper, who I think is watching in Texas, giving you some props right now. 4 different states, much of the University of Virginia, business school and law school is watching, and I have a feeling it has to do with our guest that's on screen. Our director's giving us the thumbs up. Rob, you are now live for Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. Thank you for joining us, Rob.
Jerry, I don't know what to say. I'm completely honored. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time, and I've always thought one day it could possibly happen. One day, Jerry's going to ask me to be on the I Love CVille show. One day. And lo and behold, today is the day. So I can't thank you enough. Really honored to be here and privileged. Thank you.
All right. I want to talk so much with you. You're such a dynamic guy. Before we do, how about an introduction to you personally before we talk shop? Who is Rob and what is he all about?
Well, complicated, right? But to keep it short, right? Because I was telling Judah, I've never met a time frame that I don't like. So how much time
As much as you want, Rob.
50, 5 hours? Because I have content for any time frame. But, I guess let me start by just saying that whether we're in a global pandemic or even if it's a small rainstorm, there are very few places that I find as beautiful or that I'd rather be as much as Charlottesville. So I am really honored to be here. You're a great ambassador for our town, and for you to call me that is really quite an honor. So thank you so much. When I finished undergrad and law school here, I went up to the DC area and joined a law firm that was sort of branding itself as a high-tech firm. And it was at that moment that I learned one of life's lessons where perception is reality. Yep. What you tell the public is what they believe until you give them reason not to. So my colleagues and I developed a little brochure. This is before even websites were happening. We wrote on it, "Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Your high-tech lawyers are here." And we put our pictures. And amazingly, clients started to come in. And mind you, I didn't even know what HTTP stood for at the time, much less what it did. Right? So we created a nice little practice with a firm called Hunt & Williams. And 3 years later, a group from the West Coast came east named Cooley, which is now probably the brand name for high tech. And they brought with them eBay and MP3.com and Yahoo and Hotmail and Intel, Cisco. I mean, you name the Silicon Valley giants of the time, and that's who they worked with. So they wanted to not parachute lawyers into the market. They decided, look, the best thing for us is to acquire existing groups who are high-tech lawyers. And they must have gotten the same brochure that everybody else got, because they knocked on our door and they were like, "Hey, would you guys like to open the Cooley office for us?" So me and 4 other guys were the founding fathers in Reston of the Cooley office, and continued with that for quite some time. Left Cooley for a while, went in-house with a company, and in 2004, a dream happened. Because I always thought that one day I could retire to Charlottesville, but I never thought that I'd be able to work here professionally. Right, because the startup community, the early stage businesses, it was just proliferating then, just really percolating. There was Value America. I think there was SNL. There was UVA really was the big game in town, but there wasn't the startup community that you have now. So in 2004, the law school sent out a notice to all of its graduates from the 1990s and said, "We're looking to hire a development officer who would be willing to travel around the U.S. and talk about how great UVA Law School is. Nice. And we're going to pay you." Wow. And I'm like, holy crap, I've been doing that for free.
That's a dream job.
Can you believe it? So I got together, I came down, I applied, and a bunch of people ended up applying. And John Jeffries was the dean at the time, and Lou Alvarez, who's a good friend of mine, was really in charge of the Law School Foundation, him and David Ibekin. And they hired me. And I couldn't believe it, because literally what I described to you is what happened. I got to travel all around the U.S. I got to find UVA law alum, and I got to talk to them about what's changed, what's happening, what's getting better, why we need their support. And for you may not know, but UVA Law School is probably the most geographically dispersed alumni base, because there aren't many big law jobs in Charlottesville. So as much as people would like to stay, they can't. Whereas if you're in Columbia, you can stay in New York or Chicago or Stanford, go to San Francisco, but here they go everywhere. Now, granted, DC, Atlanta, and New York are the top 3, but man, we have alums in San Antonio and in Denver and in LA and Seattle and Miami. And a lot of times the dean and the Law School Foundation just couldn't get to everybody, but yet we had 25 or 30 alums in Kansas City. So this was my job. My job was to really find those pockets, go there, give them state of the law school updates. So I made these little PowerPoints, and I talked to them about how Browns Mountain is no longer Browns Mountain, even though a lot of law school alums used to live there. And Feb Club is still rocking and rolling, but everybody has to have a laptop now, and there's no more blue books. So all these little things that you try to bring from the past student experience to the current student experience. And I enjoyed that. And that's where I got the idea for Cardigan, one of the early startups that I did, which was a relatively successful startup here in Charlottesville. We raised over $5 million trying to do mobile loyalty programs for a lot of businesses. And a lot of the idea for that company came on these travels, because I would go to Denver and the alum would be like, "I'm going to take you to the best pizza place we have here in Denver." Right? And it was never Papa John's or Pizza Hut. I heard you mention Pizza Hut earlier. It was Bojo's. Right? And I'm going to take you to the best coffee place in Seattle. We wouldn't go to Starbucks. We'd go to like Sophie's Cosmic Cafe or, places like that. And invariably there would be these little punch cards. And I would pick one up and I'd be like, all right, I don't come to Seattle often, maybe twice a year. But by God, in year 5, I'm going to get my free cup of coffee, because it's like 10 punches for the free cup. And so I accumulated all these things, and then I'd lose them and forget them and ask the cashiers, "Can I get a card again?" I lost my card again. What happened? to that cardigan. And that phrase became the name for the company, and the idea of trying to create a loyalty program for small businesses, the same way that large hospitality brands have been doing it for years, led to the founding of that company. And so I took a break from the law school, started the company. We had a lot of employees, had a lot of great business, a lot of success here in Charlottesville. A lot of businesses on the downtown mall and just throughout Charlottesville were using us. Keith Cooper, whom you mentioned earlier, was involved with that, among a lot of other people locally.
Bradley Kipp, Dan Epstein.
You remember all those guys? Exactly right. Yeah, those the dream team, brother. I love those guys deeply. And but unfortunately, we just couldn't keep up with the amount of businesses that would go out of business, right? Because this issue with local businesses and small businesses, especially QSR, right, restaurants you were mentioning earlier, has been an issue for years. And so you find that a small business owner, a deli owner, is much more concerned with making sure they have enough tomatoes for lunch hour than they are with implementing a new marketing program or an advertising program or whatever you want to call it, loyalty program, CRM. And so every one business that would come on, 2 or 3 would drop off. So we tried to engage the Groupon model, which is hire a bunch of salespeople and have them go knock on doors. And as you know very well, when you have a feet on the street sales team, it is impossible to keep up, right? I mean, the costs are high, the turnover is high, and the training is high. And so we tried to modify to have a more of a, come to us when you want this, and try to educate the marketplace in a different way, similar to the way QuickBooks tries to, or Intuit tries to educate people about QuickBooks. But we never could get it to be part of the operations of people. So now, there's Square and there's a whole bunch of loyalty programs that are integrated into POS systems. We chose not to do that strategically at the time because it was so fragmented. The POS space, there's maybe like 35 companies, and we just couldn't validate the rationale to integrate into all of them. So we decided to do standalone, and a couple of companies tried to do standalone, and unfortunately, it never materialized for us. So I know you've had Jeff Tenery on before. Moonlighting. And I got to be with him in the initial stages of starting the Moonlighting app and the Moonlighting company, which was a lot of fun to get me back in the game. Then I took a break from that and went back to big law. So I joined Woods Rogers because I sort of missed the law. And I love the idea of working with 50 different clients, but not having to go too in depth with any one particular client. So you get a little bit of sampling of all of them. You get to meet a lot of entrepreneurs. And I really enjoyed that for a long time. At the same time, I was teaching at the law school, and I still teach a couple of adjunct courses at the law school on startups and startup law. And the opportunity for Sportlife presented itself in the beginning of 2018, really, middle of 2018. And I decided, this is a good opportunity. This is cool. This is different. This is unique. And that's how I ended up in fitness. But it's really a fitness holding company. It's not like I sell memberships, but that's how I ended up in the fitness
I can't wait to go down that road. Before I do, I'd like to throw this. And Jude, are we getting a reverb at all from me?
Yes, we are.
We are getting some reverb from me. Can you turn off that speaker by chance? Is there another device that's on your end? Yeah.
Fine.
Actually, we got it. We're good now. Let me throw this to you, Rob. You are the son of a restaurateur. And I remember, memory serves correct, this must have been, I don't know, when I was launching my business 12 plus years ago. I was so impressed and inspired by you. You have a way of brightening up a room. You're an inspirational guy. You love entrepreneurship. And I remember you telling me a story about your dad in the restaurant. And correct me if I'm wrong. You grew up in this restaurant. Your dad knew so many of his customers. And oftentimes he would just go to a table and he would drop off a slice of pie. And the folks would say to your father, "What is this all about? I'm going to pay for this. Why are you doing this?" And he says, "No, I'm not going to take your money. Your money's not good today. This is for you. Thank you for being a customer." You fill in the details. How about some love for your father and this family business and how it shaped you?
You were right on, and I can't believe you remember that from 8 or 9 years ago. But that's one of the inspirations for Cardigan, for the company Cardigan. So my family immigrated from Beirut, from Lebanon, when I was 7, And in Lebanon at school, I learned how to speak French and Arabic and didn't know how to speak English. And so when we came in the late 70s, early 80s, I learned to speak English by listening to the radio.
Wow.
So pretty much any late 70s, early 80s song, you want to karaoke with me? Man, I know the words. I don't even put them on the screen even. I got it. And then and I learned how to deal with people and address people by watching my dad in this restaurant. So you're exactly right. You know, we were right outside of Blacksburg in a small town called Parisburg. And this town has maybe 5,000 people. And from the moment that my dad opened the restaurant, he gathered all 4 children and his wife, my mom, together. And he said, listen, investing our family savings in this. There is nothing else. This is all we've got. And there's 5,000 people that live in this town. And they will try us the first 6 weeks, 8 weeks, because I have experience with restaurants. And I know people will try something new. But the only way we're going to be able to stay in business is if those people come back. It is all about getting people to feel happy. It is all about getting people to feel like they're family. Whatever problems you have, when you're working in the restaurant or when you're greeting a customer, you forget about it. Because these people need to be made to feel like they're the most special people ever. Because they're giving us money that's allowing us to live. So 30 years that restaurant was in business. It's called Charlie's Restaurant. And all of us worked in the restaurant, right? We were everything, except for cooks. My dad would not let anybody cook except for him. He was trained, and he was like, "This is the food we're going to serve, and I don't care how good you think you are, and I don't care how much you've watched me. You're not going to do this. I'm going to do it." So everything from dishwashing to table cleaning to ordering to like being a little maitre d', everything related to the restaurant. But the memories that stick out the most are the ones where I would be getting ready to ring somebody up at the cash register, and he would come out. He'd be like, Robbie, no. James's money is no good here today. And he'd be like, James, go take care of your wife. And James Caldwell or people would be like, what do you mean? He said, thanks for your business. I appreciate you so much. Go take care of your wife. Go take care of your family. We're not taking your money. Or he'd bring the pieces of pie out, and he'd be like, thank you for coming every week for the last 3 weeks. I notice. I know. So the whole idea and premise behind doing something like Cardigan was how many small business owners know all of their customers by name? Well, unless they work there like my dad night and day, they probably don't. Or they may recognize some faces, but they don't know names. So the idea was, is there a way to create some sort of technology or use technology to allow businesses to really identify who their top 20% were? And I did a lot of research and reading on macroeconomic trends and what every retail business pretty much was doing, what every hospitality business had done. And that's how we were able to grow the company, right? I talked to the people at Marriott and I said, hey, can you give me information on who your top 20% of customers are? And they're like, how do you want it? By revenue, by night stay, by average bookings, by how do you want it? And I'll never forget, I was invited to go to Dunkin Brands right outside of Boston. And I was like, man, I got to impress these guys. How am I going to impress these guys? And we had just closed the $4.2 million raise. And I'm standing in front of their CEO and a whole bunch of people, this guy Nigel, all these people. And they're like, we want to introduce Rob Masri. He's developed a company in Charlottesville, Virginia that does mobile loyalty. And they all looked at me like this, and there's complete silence. And I stood up on time. I'm going to wow these guys. I said, it's got to be one question. So I looked at them. I said, hey, guys, because it was all men. I said, we just raised $4.2 million. And I would like to take a big portion of that money and invite your 5,000 best customers of Dunkin' Donuts to Boston for a special weekend. I'm going to pay for their flights. I'm going to pay for their hotels and accommodations. I'm going to pay for their food. We're going to get a suite at the Red Sox game. We're going to do all this fun stuff for them because these are your 5,000 best.
And they had no idea.
I said, the only thing I need from you is their information. Who are they? And literally, they were dumbfounded. And people were like, and I was like, it's interesting because 2 weeks ago I was meeting with Marriott and I asked them the same question. And they were like, how do you want them? I said, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to do it for quick service restaurants, large brands, but really for small businesses and really get Main Street working again. And it was, it was interesting. And so much of the lessons in building that company came from my experience with my dad at Charlie's Restaurant.
This is, you see why we have him on here? Let's talk about getting Main Street working again. Because Main Street and Wall Street, there's a big divide. And we're a platform of hope and positivity. And Rob, you have entrepreneurship in your blood, and either through your legal counsel or being on the front lines yourself, you understand many different nuances of this. And small businesses, we say it all the time, we're small business owners ourselves, the heartbeat of all communities. So I'm going to get out of your way here. Main Street going again, Rob. Anywhere you want to go.
Well, I tell you, it's one of those things where so many small business owners that I interact with, in behavioral science, they call it the Ostrich Effect, right? They bury their head in the sand and they're like, we're just going to keep doing things the same way that we've always done them and just not pay attention to the news, and things will just get better. And there are times when that might work, right? I mean, you know, when we had the incidents here in August of 2017, right, that was a sort of a one-time incident, and things probably were going to get better and back to normal in September and October, and they did. But now, with the global pandemic, I don't think that's the case. I think the only way Main Street is really going to be able to survive, because they don't have the resources that Wall Street and some of the larger brands do and can wait things out, is they have to adapt their business models. They have to alter. They have to change things. So I see just as a simple example, Bodo's, right? Never even dreamed of doing a drive-through. And now I think they're doing more business with drive-through, or as much business as they did when they had the regular restaurant. And so now it's one of those things where, can restaurants reduce their footprint? Can they reduce their overhead? Can they reduce staff? Can they reduce the cleaning and when chairs break and tables break, and just the upgrade of the infrastructure, and make it a much smaller footprint, and use to-go service, use drive-through service. It's not going to work for every restaurant, but there are some that maybe this is the new normal. This is the way they're going to be, and they're probably going to be better for it. So, it's a lot of experimentation. It's a lot of taking a little bit of risk. It's calculated risk, of course. It's not betting the farm or the house on everything, but it's all calculated risk. And the more people are willing to do that, the more I think they will come out on the other end and say, well, we tried this, this isn't going to work, this might work, or the only thing that could work for this business is the way it was, and we can only afford to do the way it was for just a little bit longer, and then we're going to have to exit and do something else, right? That whole affordable loss that Sarah Sarasvathy at Darden has done a lot of research on is something that you need to calculate all the way through your business life cycle, not just at the beginning where should I launch or not, it's should I keep going or not. And so I think that those analyses are very tough discussions to have. A lot of them are just personal discussions that the entrepreneurs and the small business owners have to have with themselves and just looking in the mirror. But man, the discrepancy between the amount of funding and what occurs on Wall Street, just look at the stock market. The stock market is still growing like gangbusters. And there's no indications that the economy is going to really prop up what's occurring in the stock market. And I'll be very curious to see when the Q3 or the Q2 earnings come out, because I don't think these companies are going to be anywhere close to meeting these numbers. And so are these stock prices justified? And is it just, banks sort of selling among each other, private equity selling among each other, all really at the expense of Main Street? So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I'm very hopeful that people will at least try different models in order to stay in business.
How do you think COVID is going to change entrepreneurship? Small business. It's clearly magnified the momentum needed to get on social and digital and mobile and technology more so than ever. What else are you seeing from your crystal ball?
I think you really hit the nail on the head, because obviously from a marketing perspective, you got to advertise, you got to create brand awareness. So what's an easy and relatively cheap way to do that? And so digital marketing, social media, things like that. I think the large mainstream advertisers that are using television and radio, that'll be really reserved for the very, very big brands. I just don't think that even the car dealerships in a locality are going to be able to reach for that like they've done in the past. But technology is the biggest thing, right? Because our business is the gym business now, right? So when we talk about the gym business, we really create three buckets: operations, right? Because you got to operate the facilities, you got to have members, you got to have a place for them to go. Equipment, right? Because that's your biggest capex is the equipment, and then technology, because technology allows you to reduce your reliance on labor. And I agree with you that people need to work, and we need to keep unemployment down, and we need to do various things of that sort. But there are ways to really digitize, I guess, or technologize, if that's a word, some low-value service that's created in a place like a gym or even a restaurant.
Give me examples.
So I think, for example, like cleaning, right? So are there more automated or robotic ways to clean facilities, or rely on your staff, not on your staff, rely on your members to clean? So some of the new trends that we're seeing now in the sector is when you check into a gym, now you're doing reservations, you check into a gym, you're given a bottle that has the disinfectant in it, and you are watched. After you finish a machine, it's your responsibility to take your bottle with you, disinfect, right? So that way you're not paying other people to do it, or the staff to do it, and then bring the bottle back where it's disinfected, and then reload it for the next member. Personal training, right? Do you need to have a personal trainer there present, or group exercise? Do you need to have? Can it be done virtually? Right? Can you have one person like Peloton does in a studio that then broadcasts across your network and makes it accessible, and then also allows the member to take the gym home with them if they want to, but in a professional way, right? Not just sort of some of the amateur ways that we're seeing, but in a professional, like Peloton type of way. I think there's opportunities there. I think there's interesting ways for facilities management that technology can be used. I look at the hotel industry, and the hotel industry is fascinating. First of all, if you want to buy into a Marriott, you have, I don't know how many brands, they have 10 brands underneath that you can choose for your building. Courtyard, Residence Inn, Autograph Collection. I mean, there's only a handful that actually Marriott owns themselves. Everything else is franchised, and you select the franchise that you want. But the reason that people join is because of the technology system that you're given, not just the reservation, not just the website that draws traffic to you, but your system. It tells you it's more efficient for you not to rent a room on the 14th floor to this one person and instead give them a suite on the 12th floor, because it allows you to keep the power and electricity and all the elements associated with running the 14th floor closed during that time, right? And I'm like, well, why can't we do that in gyms, right? If I look at the gym check-in, and I'm sure ACAC is like this and other places are like this, they probably, when they open at 6 a.m., they turn on their utilities full blast. And then it stays full blast all the way until they close at midnight. But if you look at the check-in, right, maybe they have 50 people at 6 a.m., 75, 300, 250, right? So you have all this space above the graph that is just wasted energy. And so is there a way that you can make gyms and facilities more energy efficient using technology? Can you say, maybe we're not going to turn on the heater in the pool for these hours because it's only 20 members. And so we're just not going to make that area available to them. It costs us more to make it available than to make it available. So swimming is only going to be during this time, right? For example. And of course, members would have to agree, and you may have to explain it to them. But there are things like that can be done and should be done. Equipment monitoring, right? There's like all these little IoT sensors you can put on equipment. So why do you have to wait for your staff to say, oh, this is broken? Why can't you get messages from the equipment periodically, and you can be anywhere remote and say, oh, no one is using this machine, so either no one likes it or it's broken. Either way, it probably shouldn't be on the floor, so send somebody to look at it, right? So there are things like that we're exploring and that I'm trying to figure out how to really tap into to make things just more efficient. And to allow the gym owner to keep more of their money.
I love it. I love this model. Let me throw this to you here. The concept of a brick-and-mortar gym. What is the future of a brick-and-mortar gym? The second part of the question, I'm watching Lululemon and its CEO calling his customers, instead of customers, he's now calling them members and guests. I watched Lululemon a couple days ago acquire, and you're going to have to help me here, acquire a company, and the company they acquired is the Mirror Technology Company. So from my standpoint, you're the expert, I'm just a dummy here. From my standpoint, Lululemon is pivoting in its retail model to a membership model that is gym-oriented. It acquired the company that does the mirror. So you're going to be able to, at your house, and correct me if I'm wrong, work out in front of this mirror, buy products from Lululemon in front of this mirror. You want to try the black pants, the green pants, the pink pants, but you don't want to go in? You can swipe left or right and see the pants on you in front of the mirror. And then they're going to get experts in fitness and exercise teaching classes in front of the mirror that you can do at home. So the question I have for you is the future of fitness in gyms in our living room through a mirror? Or is there always going to be a need for, I walk into ACAC, I see my friends, I get excited, I play racquetball, and I leave feeling a little less stressed? Show is yours, sir.
Yeah. I tell you, the community element that's generated in a gym setting can be replicated in the home setting. There's been, since the 1970s when Jane Fonda was doing workout at home, there's always been this move to try to take elements of the gym and bring them home. And they've been met with modest results. And even Peloton itself, as early as February and January of this year, was debating what's next, right? Because we've sort of tapped out the people who can afford a $2,500 bike, which, by the way, cost them about $100 to make. And then on top of that, it's the $39.99 a month as the subscription fee to continue to access the service, right? Whether you want it on demand or the live classes. And that's exactly Mirror's model as well. Mirror is the same way. You buy the device and then you pay $39.99 and you get access to unlimited personal trainers and other people who will just work out with you. But no one has been able to replicate the, great job, Jerry. It's high five to you. We're all going to train for the Charlottesville Marathon together. So the 5 of us are always going to meet at 6 a.m. and we're going to do this for the next 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And then we're going to run it together. And just that camaraderie is something that will always be needed and wanted from the gym setting. And until that's replicated in the at-home setting, I just don't think gyms themselves are going to go out of business. I think they do need to alter their models. I think that more education needs to come into the marketplace now about the likelihood of sweat flying and contracting the communicable diseases like COVID through a gym setting. And there's actually a very interesting piece of research that just came out from Oslo, the University of Oslo, where they took 3,000 people from May 22nd to June 15th, and half of them were instructed to go to 5 gyms that were open specifically for the study, and half weren't. And then the question is, who gets COVID and who doesn't, right? It was when Norway was under lockdown, and they found that of the 1,800 who went to the gyms, 1 got COVID, but not from the gym, because they were able to do these contact tracing. It showed that he actually got it from his work. And no one else got it. And what they did was, it was like social distancing, right? Proper hygiene, so everybody had to wash. Everybody was given the spray bottle and for proper sanitization. And certain areas where things are likely to spread were still shut down. So the locker rooms were open for social distancing, but the showers were not, right? And basketball was one-on-one was all you could do. You couldn't do 2-on-2, 5-on-5. You couldn't do things like that. And the group exercise classes were at 50%. People were spread out. Or if they were at full capacity, they were taken outdoors, and done outdoors. So I think, and then the other thing that I see is how much of the gym can you really move into a house, right? Because you may say, oh, I'd like a treadmill, or I'd like a recumbent bike, or I'd like an elliptical. These are the most popular cardio pieces, maybe a rower that people would want. But do you really want a full strength line? Right? Are you really going to have a shoulder press and a chest press and a leg press? And first of all, where are you going to put it? And second of all, how are you going to afford it? And third of all, how are you going to use it? Right? So unless you're a multimillionaire and you're going to still invite 5 or 6 friends over to use your facilities with you, to train with you, it's not really feasible. So I think that those things will will always keep gyms sort of active and going. But using technology, staying engaged with members at home, making some of your products and your services available to them at home, so you're always front in mind, are things that gyms are going to have to continue to do to stay relevant.
I agree 1,000%. Besides hiring you, Phil Wendell and ACAC, from my standpoint, they're in a unique position. I take ACAC because I'm a member over there. They have one instructor in Chris Collins, who is like a local celebrity here. He does the hardest classes over there. He's also the director of membership. From my standpoint, I would think boutique gyms across the country need to take their celebrity fitness instructors, get them in front of a camera, give their members an opportunity to interact with the celebrity fitness instructor at home, and then the celebrity fitness instructor, while on the camera, while connecting with somebody at home, can say, look, you're doing a heck of a job at home, but if you're uncertain about your form, or if you want to take this workout to another level with this equipment that we have here that's very expensive, that you can't afford, or it's too large, come on in, and we'll take it to another level. So it's almost like that freemium model. While it's not freemium, they're still paying for the content. It keeps them captivated while at the casa, and then drives them to the brick-and-mortar gym.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right, and there's actually a model that is already in place. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bay Club.
I'm not.
It's a large gym group out on the West Coast, but it's more like a country club. So they have golf, they have like large pools, they have eating clubs. But it's called the Bay Club, and it was just acquired for $1 billion by KKR. Wow. And so what you're describing, there's a young woman whose name is Bree. I don't know what her last name. But they took her out of the Bay Club because she was so popular and her classes were so popular, and they just couldn't reserve and have her teach so much because so many people, such demand. And they created an online concept called Body by Bree for that exact purpose. So now instead of having 20 people in her class, she could have 200 people in her class. And the cost of creating a mini studio like Peloton has, making it professional, allowing her to interact with people while they're there in real time. I mean, unless you put Jerry Miller, she's not going to necessarily know it's Jerry Miller, but she can talk to whatever your screen name is. And that just, again, that makes people feel like, hey, I'm still connected to the gym, and the gym's providing a service for me, and of course I'm going to help them through this, and gets that celebrity out into the public, and keeps the gym, front and center. So I think there's opportunities like that a lot of gyms should and need to explore. And gyms generally hate to make investments. Right? Their job is to sell airspace. Right. They sell memberships. Right? This is what they do. And you buy an airspace and come and go. So unless you are Planet Fitness, which requires its franchisees to upgrade its equipment every 3 to 5 years, most gyms aren't going to upgrade the equipment sometimes ever. Like Gold's Gym will, if you go to Venice Beach, they will tell you this bench press is where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno worked out. That's
awesome.
So you get a piece of history. Come lift on this bench. Really, I think it's just the owner doesn't
want to being cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why spend $3,000 when people are still using it? Now it's like a historical item. So I think there's that mentality that exists with a lot of gym owners, and so that's another one where this ostrich effect is taking effect, and people need to sort of come out of their comfort zone, think about the models that are working, Mirror and Peloton and things of that sort, and then take advantage of this at-home desire. Because I think until we have a cure for COVID, or some sort of immunization for COVID, people are still going to be gun shy, right? And every time I see an article come out, like for example, 2 days ago in Morgantown, West Virginia, at WVU, a group of students went to Myrtle Beach and came back, and one of the guys who works out at Planet Fitness tested positive for COVID. And of course, if you're in my industry, you probably didn't pay much attention to it. Immediately, it flares up, and gyms are unsafe. Right? Gyms are not a good place to be, and this is reason why. And so I think without going into detail about how exercise builds immunity and how exercise is probably the best thing you can do to really get your body ready for what may come next. None of that is just gyms are bad because you can catch COVID at the gym, and this is the evidence right here at this particular Planet Fitness. So I think that there's going to be people who are gun shy. There's going to be people who are hesitant about coming back, and the more that the industry can educate people, the more that the industry can really show them how safe it is and the safety measures that they're doing, the better off it's going to be. And I think the better off it's going to be for society.
I love this guy. I love this guy. You're an easy interview, man. Let's close on this note. We're a platform of hope and positivity. We're entrepreneurs. Just because we're cautious optimists doesn't mean we're not aware that we're vulnerable and we're scared and we're uncertain and we don't know what's going to happen. But these are qualities that we literally deal with constantly as entrepreneurs. So I think entrepreneurs perhaps more set up to deal with this because they do it every day with their life. I'd like for you, with a lot of folks watching right now, and we're going to cut this into a highlight clip for tomorrow's show. Are you bullish or are you bearish on Charlottesville and Central Virginia over the next 12 to 24 months, and why?
For Charlottesville specifically, I'm actually bullish. And not just because I'm on your show and not because I love you and not because I try to be a great ambassador for Charlottesville. Charlottesville, over the past really 10 years, has developed an ecosystem that's going to be able to sustain and support entrepreneurs regardless of the industry that they are pursuing. Right? There are resources, whether it's at Darden, whether it's CIC, there's a lot of different resources that are available that allows people to be educated. Because the first thing that an entrepreneur needs to do is not just throw themselves off a cliff and say, I'm taking a risk, is figuring out how much on that risk spectrum they can take risk away. So can I take 80% of the risk away because of my knowledge, because of the distribution channel, because of the technology, the idea, whatever it may be? And there's always going to be some risk, but that's a common misperception is like, oh, entrepreneurs are all risk takers. It's actually not true. Most of the entrepreneurs, the great ones that I know, are actually risk averse because they've done the research to show where on the continuum how much risk exists and then how do they address it. The second thing is Charlottesville, has professionals who can help, not just me as a startup lawyer, but there's a lot of good professionals, McGuire Woods, Woods Rogers. There's a lot of people who have done it and a lot of other entrepreneurs who have gone down this path. So you can call Brendan Richardson. You can call Joel Seltzer. You can call a lot of these people who have had success raising money, what they went through, how did they do it. And so that network is very valuable. And the last piece is there's funding, right? And before, I don't know, in the early 2000s, angel investing didn't really happen in Charlottesville. You had to get lucky to find somebody who will angel invest in you. But now, as VCs have moved up the spectrum in terms of investing and in terms of life cycle, they're looking at more like Series A, $10 million in revenue, $5 million in revenue. The people who are startup or pre-revenue, where are they going for funding? It's not like they're going to go to banks, right? Friends and family can only provide so much. So is there a group of angel investors in a community that can fill that void? And Charlottesville is one of the places that exists between the Charlottesville Angel Network, between Cav Angels, and between just individuals who want to really support the entrepreneurial community that exists. And so those three things, I think the access to resources, the access to professionals who have gone through this and done this and can really advise you, and the access to funding will make Charlottesville a very popular place and a very successful place.
That was beautiful. Let's cut that into a clip for tomorrow's show. Rob, you were dynamite.
Thank you, brother. I very, very much appreciate you including me, and happy to be back on anytime in the future.
I'm going to take you up on that. I'm going to respond to those emails. 42 minutes on this interview, and it felt like 4.5. That is a testament to you. Thank you, my friend.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. I'll see you again.
I love you, Rob. Rob is such good people. A diehard San Diego Chargers fan. I saw Rob and his kids at Dogfest at Ix Art Park, and we had a costume contest. And Rob and his kids come to Dogfest at Ix Art Park dressed up as a San Diego Chargers football team. They had their dog. They went across stage. I'm like, this dude needs some hardware and his family. I love Rob. Let's get that clip for tomorrow's show, please, Judah Wickower. If you guys have comments, if you guys have anything you'd like to relay, put them in the comment section now. We will put your comments and relay your messaging on screen, live on air. And good night, the comments are coming in live on 12 Facebook pages. All right, let's go to this. Jerry, first off, this is from Laura Monk. Jerry, I watch your show every single day. I watch your show before I watch the news. Thank you for having folks on this program that serve as ambassadors for our community. I especially liked Rob, and I remember him from his time as a lawyer. Please pass this message along to him. Andre Xavier says, great guess. Well done, Jerry. Rob was exceptionally good. We have folks coming in on the I Love CVille Facebook page. Let's get to those messages here. And Judah, I want to hear Barbara sing again. I'm going to close the show with Barbara singing again. I'm going to close the show with the GoFundMe, Judah, and I want to close the show with how far we are from $35,000 because I want to pass that threshold today. Carol Thorpe says, Jerry, my understanding for the closure of city pools was the city's inability to train lifeguards during March and April during COVID-19. Now it's too late to get them. I don't know why the splash parks remain closed. I think there's a lot of truth to that, Carol. There's a lot of truth to that. I've invested a fair amount of money. I'm going to put this in perspective. I do a lot of trading of stocks. And I invested a fair amount of money into TJ Maxx. And I'm going to put more into TJ Maxx. I invested about a month ago into TJ because I'm like, look, the brick and mortars are reopening again. There's pent up demand. And people want, TJ Maxx also owns Marshalls and Home Goods. So you take Home Goods, TJ Maxx owns Home Goods. Folks are literally flooding to Home Goods and getting stuff for their office, their home offices. People love the TJ Maxx and Marshalls experience because it's like a treasure hunt. So 30 days or so ago, I invested a sizable amount into this company. And I'm like, this company is going to explode. Well, what's happened with TJ Maxx, Home Goods, and Marshalls is they have struggled to maintain people on the floor. So the initial flock of people when phase 2 opened and TJ and Marshalls and Home Goods started opening up, the initial pent-up demand sent people flooding to TJ's, Marshalls, and Home Goods. Then the shelves got depleted. The shelves did not start restocking because TJ's, Marshalls, and Home Goods had their team members sitting on their couch collecting the 600 bills, the 6 bills from the federal government instead of working in the store stocking. So that initial investment stayed flat for a little while. What's happening now is the team members at TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Home Goods are returning to the store. So we head into phase 3. Phase 2 is over. We head into phase 3. You still have that pent-up demand and people rushing to TJ's, Marshalls, and Home Goods. Now with team members back, they're stocking the shelves again, and the stock is going up. So what happened? A, my bet was right. I was a little early on the bet, but my bet was right, and now I'm seeing 8-9% return on a sizable 5-figure investment. This is exactly like what Carol Thorpe is saying. They did not have the lifeguards to man the pools. They didn't have the lifeguards to train during COVID. Maybe the lifeguards wanted to stay home and get the 6 bills instead of coming to work. So perhaps that's why the pools aren't opening. Regardless, don't you see an issue where the private clubs, the YMCAs, the ACACs, the Glenmores, the Farmingtons, the Spring Creeks, the Boar's Heads, and the Keswicks, you can go there, you can have fun, you can go swimming, you can go in the splash parks, and your kids have something to do. The affordable, low-priced, or free options, the Greenleaf parks, the George Washington parks, the splash parks across the area, not open. That furthers the wealth gap, that furthers civil and social unrest. I don't think often our leadership sees the forest through the trees. They see here, but they don't see the Rob Masri macro picture. It's just like the largest association of pediatric doctors in the country, and I had this story for you yesterday, is begging school systems across America to please reopen in the fall. These are freaking pediatric doctors. Please reopen in the fall. These pediatric doctors in this association are saying, please. Because the ramifications of not having in-person education in the fall are much greater than the ramifications of having kids go to school. Here's what it is in a nutshell. The scales of justice. Kids going to school, the doctors are saying, versus kids staying at home doing virtual learning. You have a generation of students that is not going to get socialized properly, a generation of students that's not going to be able to sit like this, keep their hands to themselves because they're at home in a learning environment as opposed to a classroom with 25 kids. I look at COVID and I see COVID. We're not going to get a vaccine for a while. Okay? We're not. Until we do, we have to mentally prepare ourselves, physically prepare ourselves of living with this virus until we have a vaccine. And the mental and physical preparation, I'm going to cut to the chase, goes much beyond confining yourself and your kids at home. And a lot of people may disagree with that, but these are truths here, guys. More comments coming in. This one from Spencer. He said, the interview with Rob was absolutely fantastic. I was clinging to every word. Please pass this along to your guests. And that's from Spencer, who's watching in Crozet. Thank you, Spencer, for sharing that. A lot of comments coming in. We're not going to get to all these guys. We'll get to a couple more, and then I got to go because I got to go run my businesses here. Jamie Schwartz, welcome to the program. Jamie and Kelly Jackson are going to launch a new show on this network on Monday morning at 10:15 a.m. I am not going to be a part of the show. Jamie and Kelly, well, I own the network. I'll be behind the scenes making sure it goes well. Jamie and Kelly are going to be sitting right here. And for an hour on Monday at 10:15, they're going to be talking about this topic. Women changing our world. How cool is that? Women changing our world. Monday at 10:15 on the I Love CVille network. Judah, you know I'm a patriot. You know I'm a passionate American. I want to do something we have never done in the history of this program. I want to play a piece of sound for a second time in one show. It was that good. When you guys see this lady around town, you tell Barbara Lundgren, she has the voice of an angel, the voice of a songbird, the voice of a beautiful, dynamic, intelligent businesswoman. I want to close on this, Judah, as we head into our 4th of July weekend. 2 shows tomorrow, and they're going to be banging, baby. Thank you for joining us on the I Love CVille network. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you to Rob Masri, and here's Barbara Lundgren. Put your hand over your heart on this one. I'm proud to be American. Play it, Judah. Okay, Barbara Lundgren is going to sing. Everybody tag on any of the 12 Facebook pages that you're watching the show on. If you're watching the show on any of these 12 Facebook pages, tag your friends right now and say the fairy godmother, Barbara Lundgren, is about to sing.
It's okay, it's all right.
Barbara Lundgren is about to sing. Everybody tag your friends right now. I'm going to go studio cam and raise and wave the American flag right here. Judah, make some moves, Judah. Make some moves, Judah. He's got it. We didn't tell him this, so he's going to frame you here.
Oh, dear.
This is
okay.
amazing. This is live programming, not
Don't get that
whatsoever.
excited, okay?
I'm taking a jacket. I'm so excited right now. Judah, you ready to rock and roll, baby?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to hold the flag.
Okay. I'm going to wave the flag.
Wave the
roll
flag.
my sleeves up and wave the flag. Barbara, I love you. You're fun. You're a lot of fun. J-Dubs, let's do it, baby. Give us the 3, 2, 1 when Barbara can sing.
I'm ready with one cam on her.
Okay. Show us yours. I'm waving the flag.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the